I got a ton of questions on my videos about the eufyMake E1 UV printer, and I'm going to try to answer as many of them as I can. Unlike most of my videos, this video is not scripted. It's just going to be candid, and I'm going to keep editing to a minimum. So we're just going to keep it casual. You can tell because I'm wearing a t-shirt. Printed off a list of questions. I've got 28 of them here, so let's just get started and go through them. So question number one, what is the maintenance like? So one of the biggest advantages of this printer, according to eufyMake, is that it doesn't really require maintenance. Most of the people asking this had experience with other UV printers that traditionally require a lot of maintenance, and they tend to get clogged really easily in the print heads, stuff like that. According to eufyMake, this doesn't have that problem. It has a jet clean system, which there's a cleaning cartridge on the side over there, and basically it just cleans itself. Like every 30 minutes, if it's on, if you leave it on every 30 minutes, you can hear it going through that cleaning process. And then if you turn it off, as it's shutting down, it'll purge the lines. And then once you turn it back on, it'll re-inject the lines. Now, only time will tell if the jet clean system works as well as eufyMake says it does. But so far, I haven't really had any issues. For the record, I've been testing this for about a little over 2 weeks now. I just had to replace the cleaning cartridge. So for me, the cleaning cartridge lasted about 2 weeks, and that was with it being off for maybe like 3 days on 2 separate occasions. So a total of like 6 days off. And I did have a minor clog with the yellow ink, and that was a couple of days ago, but running it through the cleaning process solved that. And then a couple weeks, like a week and a half ago, I had a clog on the white ink, and the same thing, just running it through the cleaning process fixed that. So if it works as advertised, you don't have to really do any maintenance. You just leave it on and it'll maintain itself. But, you know, we're only going to see over time if that actually works as advertised. It's important to note that it uses some ink when it's cleaning. I'm not sure exactly how much. I think it's minimal, like under a milliliter each day, but I'm not really sure. So again, time will tell. Question number two, what if clogs occur? There are 3 deep cleaning or 3 cleaning options in the software. There's like flash clean, regular clean, and then deep clean. And they basically just go through and manually clean the head. And so far that's fixed clog issues for me. If a really bad clog occurs, I asked eufyMake about this. They said that there will be replacement print heads. They didn't say what model of print head they used, but they said that there will be replacement print heads available. But they didn't tell me how much those are going to cost, what the availability will be, that kind of thing. I also asked about a warranty, like if it, within a week, if your print head just completely clogs, are they going to replace that under warranty? And they didn't really give me an answer on that either, so I'm not quite sure. But I did see that they're going to offer the eufyMake Care program, which is like a service program, so I'm guessing that's going to be an additional cost. I don't know what it is, but I'm guessing that will be some sort of like long-term service. Not quite sure. All right, on to question number 3. How much does ink cost? So I answered this in my main YouTube video, and it is $300 for a complete kit. Now that kit contains the cyan, magenta, yellow, key, which is black, white, and gloss. It contains all 6 of those cartridges, each of which is 100 milliliters, and then that kit also includes the cleaning cartridge. Now, in my experience, you go through the white, gloss, and cleaning cartridges way faster than you go through CMYK. The CMYK actually lasts a really long time. It's like you use hardly any of it for each print. So like a print might only use half a milliliter of cyan or whatever, so it lasts a long time. So you'll be replacing the white, gloss, and cleaning cartridges way more often, and you will be able to buy those individually, but I don't know the price yet. They haven't. I asked eufyMake about it, and they said that they haven't made that information available yet. So I don't know. Based on, if you get six cartridges plus a cleaning kit for $300, I mean, $50 for a cartridge, probably $50-$60, something like that, I would expect. But only time will tell. Question number 4. Do you have to use eufyMake ink? Yeah, you do. At least that's the official answer is yeah, you do. They definitely want you to. Now, I plan on experimenting with, well, I might experiment, wink wink, with refilling cartridges, but I don't know if that's actually going to be possible. I'm sure they has some sort of electrical contacts on the cartridges, and I think there's a very good chance that there's a chip in the cartridge to kind of prevent you from doing that sort of thing. Whether you can get around that or not, I don't know. I'm going to experiment with it, but it's probably important to note that I would think it's gonna void your warranty if you refill with ink that isn't official eufyMake ink. It's probably gonna void your warranty. And in addition to that, eufyMake says that the ink that they use is formulated specifically for this machine, for that jet clean maintenance and all of that. So I don't know how true that is, but it's possible that other inks just won't work as well with this machine. So practically speaking, if you're going to buy one of these right now, I would just assume that you do have to use eufyMake ink. Maybe that'll change in the future, but that's what I would assume for now. All right, so this was a big one. Question number 5, how much ink do prints require? So this is obviously very dependent on what you're printing. So the size of the print, kind of the colors in that print, if it has texture or not, and if you're going to print a white layer underneath it. So the white layer is there to, like if you're printing on something dark, you print the white layer down first, then the CMYK, so that you get, so the colors show up properly. All those influence the amount of ink that the prints require. So as an example, I've got the numbers here. So this kind of oil painting that I showed off in my video, which, me and my dog, very cute. This has the texture on it. It's made to look like an oil painting. You can like feel the brush strokes. It's really nice. I like it a lot. So this is textured and it's a pretty big print, 12 by 16 inches, I think. This print used 0.1 milliliters of cyan ink, 0.3 milliliters of magenta ink, 0.3 milliliters of yellow ink, 0.2 milliliters of black ink, that's the key, but then it used 60.5 milliliters of gloss and 50.4 milliliters of white. So that gloss and white is where so much of this texture is coming from. It's building up that kind of 3D relief to make the texture, so it's using a ton of white and gloss. So if you were going to print one of these, you can only print one with the set of with that set of cartridges, because you wouldn't have enough white and gloss to do a second one. You could probably get that down a little bit by lowering the texture height. So with a little bit of optimization, I'd say you could realistically print 2 of these, but you're not going to print a lot of them before you run out of gloss and white. However, you're going to have almost all of your cyan, magenta, yellow, and key left, because those are all minimal. So what if you aren't doing texture? So this exact same, I calculated it for this exact same print. If I didn't do it textured, so if I just did a flat print, it would be, let's see, 0.15 milliliters of cyan, 0.32 milliliters of magenta, 0.29 milliliters of yellow, 0.13 milliliters of black, and no white and no gloss. So if you did a flat print of this, no texture, you could print around 300 of these before you needed to replace ink, and then you would just run out of magenta. You would still have quite a bit of black and the cyan left. You use all of your magenta and most of your yellow, but you wouldn't use any white or gloss. So that is nice to keep in mind. Another example is this. You can see it's just printed on regular printer paper, dink it or sink it for my pickleball heads out there. I was originally doing this for a pickleball cover, which I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, so this is just a basic print, but it is color. This used, let's see, 0.01 milliliters of cyan, 0.01 milliliters of magenta, 0.04 milliliters of yellow, 0.01 milliliters of black, no white, no gloss. So you could print 2,500 of these with a set of ink cartridges and still have all of your white and gloss left. Obviously, you're probably not going to want to, you could just do this with an inkjet. So like, you're probably not going to actually want to print on paper, but it's nice to know that you could do this on, say, I don't know, a canvas or whatever, and you could print 2,500 images of this kind of size and color. All right, question number 6. How long do prints take? Again, this is going to vary a lot based on all the same factors as how much ink it takes. So size, shape, texture, all that. The dink it and sink it, I think only took like 6 minutes to print this. But this oil painting, I think it took several hours. Probably like, I don't know, 5 to 7 hours, something like that. So that, it takes a long time to build up all that texture. So it really just depends. If you're printing just color, no white layer on tumblers or magnets or whatever, figure, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes for each one. But then if you're doing textured stuff, big stuff, it can be several hours. Do you need, question number 7. Do you need white ink when printing on white surfaces? No, you don't. So like this, didn't use any white ink because I'm just printing on white paper. So 0 white ink on this. The point of the white ink is to give you a white base to print on so that your colors come through properly. If you're printing on something black, for instance, and you didn't do white ink first, then your colors aren't going to come through. It's going to look all kind of dark and weird. In between colors, like I'll show you this in a minute, but this Zippo, stuff can come through pretty well. It just depends. So, and I'm going to be showing some more stuff in a minute that kind of shows that. Number 8, do you need an internet connection to print? So this is a really good question. I'm glad somebody asked it because yes, you do need an internet connection to print, which is concerning to me. So I tested this by I left my Wi-Fi router going, but I disconnected the internet. So my computer and the machine were still both connected to the Wi-Fi and could talk to each other, theoretically. But the internet was disconnected and it wouldn't work. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the software needs to go through some sort of internet cloud service to talk to the machine. They can't just talk directly over the local network. I'm not sure why that is. It doesn't seem necessary, but it is. It just doesn't work without the internet connection. If you don't have the internet connection, it'll say can't find the machine. So that's disappointing. I'm not really sure why that is. I hope that they change that so that you don't have to have internet connection, because like I said, it doesn't seem necessary. But if you're say at a trade show or a craft fair or convention or something like that, you might not have internet access, or say your internet goes down. Well, now you can't print until your internet goes back up. For people and with unreliable internet connections, that can be a big deal. And even for me, I have Cox. I live in Phoenix with Cox, and it is the only service I can use. And even it goes down occasionally for a few hours at a time. It would suck to not be able to get any work done in that time. So I am hoping they change that, because that's pretty disappointing. Question number 9, how much do materials cost? So I think people that were asking this were talking about the official materials from eufyMake, like this mug or a tumbler that I showed in my initial video. This eufyMake supplied this with the machine. So talking about that stuff, the answer is I don't know. they haven't released price information for these yet. There's a lot of different stuff that they have: the canvases, the tumblers, coasters, magnets, iPhone cases, metal sheets to print on, the light box, all sorts of things that they're planning on making available. And those are cool because you know that they're going to work, right? So I talked about how the rotary extension doesn't fit. Some bottles won't fit in it. If you get one from eufyMake, you'll know it'll fit. But how much will it cost? I don't know. I'm guessing it's going to have, a markup. But how big is that markup? I don't know. It's a good way for them to make some profit. But you don't have to use those things. You can go to AliExpress and order, 100 tumblers for $200 or whatever it is. And you can use those. You just want to, verify beforehand that they'll fit. And you can see I've been printing on all kinds of things that aren't official eufyMake materials. I will say that it seems like the stuff that they provide is pretty high quality. Like, it's a pretty standard tumbler, but it's not cheap. Like, it feels nice. And then this cover coating, I think it's like some sort of powder coating, works well with the printing. So, that's good to keep in mind. But yeah, no information on price yet. Question number 10, is there a strong smell and do you need ventilation? So you can't see it, but my desk where I sit, my computer chair, is basically right where the camera is right now. So it's, what is that, 6-8 feet away from the machine. And this is where it's been the entire time I've been testing it. So it's not that bad, but there is a noticeable smell. To me, it's kind of similar to a resin 3D printer, that kind of like chemically smell you get from a resin printer. It's just that, but a lot more muted, so it's not nearly as strong as that. I asked eufyMake if there's like a toxicity or anything. They said it's completely safe, that there isn't any toxicity, they told me like chemically it's similar to UV resin for resin printers, but not quite the same. That stuff is known for being toxic. So I don't know, I guess this is different enough that they said it's like certified to, not be toxic or something. But I don't know. I can just tell you that the smell isn't that bad. I don't think it's gonna hurt you if you don't have like a super well ventilated area. But for people who are sensitive to that kind of thing, that like get headaches from fragrances, I would recommend like either like in and out, like an area with like open windows that you can get a lot of ventilation, maybe some sort of like air purifier or something like that. But it hasn't been bothering me. Question number 11, can you print directly onto metal and does texture show through? So I thought this was an interesting question for two reasons. One, I saw a couple of people commenting that this UV ink doesn't stick to metal, which as far as I can tell isn't true because it seems to stick really well. I've done a few different things on metal. This Zippo is on brass, and then this is on mild steel. And so this is just a small sheet of mild steel that I machined on my old mill with a fly cutter. So this is freshly machined. I just cleaned it with acetone and then printed directly onto it, and it's not coming off. It's really, really on there. And the texture question is interesting because the person asking wanted to know, like, if you're not printing a white layer like I did with the Eat Cheese and Sin Zippo, can you still see the texture coming through? And you can. I'll try to get a close-up picture of this, but this is, so there's no white layer, it's just the colors printed onto here. And you can definitely see the machine marks from the fly cutter coming through the ink, and it's actually a really nice look. I think this looks really cool. The colors aren't quite as vibrant because you don't have that white layer, but it looks, I don't know, I think this looks really nice. So yes, you can print onto metal, and yes, the texture will show through as long as you're doing, a flat print without a lot of, without a white layer, I guess. Question 12, can you print onto glass? Yeah, you can. This is another one where somebody mentioned that you couldn't, that these inks don't stick to glass, but seems to stick just fine to me. I can't show it to you because I printed on some glass and sent it to some family for a gift, and it turned out really well. It printed nicely on there, but I couldn't find anything else that was glass to print on to show you an example. But so you're just gonna have to kind of take my word for it. But it did print onto glass just fine. All right, question 13, can you print onto acrylic? Yes, you can. If some of you may have seen my the YouTube short I made about this Pokemon card, this is on 1/8 inch thick, so like 3mm yellow acrylic, and yeah, it printed just fine onto here. It's not like flaking off or anything like that. It's stuck really nicely. Turned out nice, looks nice. The edges on mine are a little messed up. That's from my laser cutting not being tuned very well, but when I laser cut the blank. But yeah, the printing is great. Shows up great on acrylic, turned out great. Durable, looks cool. Cool. Question 14, can you print onto fabric? So this is an interesting one, and a lot of people were asking about this. According to eufyMake, the answer is no, you're not supposed to print on fabric. But I couldn't think of any reason why it wouldn't work, so I decided to try it. And the first thing I tried was this Dink It or Sink It design. I tried to print it onto a pickleball paddle cover, and you can see it didn't really work. You know, it's really faded and just, yeah, it didn't work. But this is like a neoprene kind of material, I think. It's hard to tell what it is, but it's like very absorbent. And then also part of the problem was when it was sitting on the bed, kind of like this, so you're getting these wrinkles. So it's not completely flat, and so the print head is having to sit pretty high up. So that might have had something to do with it. Anyway, so this didn't turn out well, which would align with what eufyMake says, that you can't print on fabric. But then I tried it again. I just cut off, just cut apart a t-shirt. This is just 100% cotton, so 100% cotton, white, obviously. Printed that onto there, and it turned out really well. It looks nice. You know, it's not like rigid or anything. It flexes with the fabric. It doesn't like feel bad. Actually, you can feel it a little bit, but almost not at all on there. So yeah, that turned out really well. And yes, you can wash this exact same thing, but this one went through a cycle in my washer and dryer, and it, as far as I can tell, it didn't harm it really at all. Now, how many times can you do that? I don't know, but at least once. So, like I said, one time, and I don't really notice any degradation of the graphics. So, so even though eufyMake says that you can't, I guess you kind of can, at least with some fabrics in some situations. Blah 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 blah. The bigger issue, I think, is a practical one. Of like, if you wanted to print t-shirts, how are you going to get the t-shirt on the bed? I think you would need something like almost like an embroidery hoop, but that also tucks the sleeves and everything under, so you get a flat surface on top. That's why I had to cut the fabric, because otherwise the t-shirt would just be bunched up on there. I think I'm going to experiment with designing some sort of 3D printed like embroidery hoop type of thing for t-shirts, where it folds the sleeves under, specifically for doing this. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. So it's possible eufyMake says not to do it, because I guess because it just doesn't work on some things, but it's a possibility. Yeah. Question 15, what is the maximum object height? So like how tall can something be on here? eufyMake says it's 60 millimeters. I haven't tried anything taller than that. It definitely can do 60 millimeters. It might be able to do more than that. Basically, you have from where the bed sits to where the lasers are here that detect the height of things. Right now, that's more than 60 millimeters. That's like probably twice as much as that. But you could do at least 60 millimeters. What is the maximum texture height? So on a textured print, what's the maximum from from the lowest point to the highest point, it is 5 millimeters. So that's about 1/5 of an inch. I don't know why exactly that limit is there. The software won't let you do any more than that. It seems like it could, but for some reason, the software limits you to 5 millimeters, which is actually, I mean, that's tons for creating texture. You know, this isn't a 3D printer, but for making texture, that's plenty. So yeah, just 5 millimeters is what you should count on. Maybe that'll change later if it's a soft limit, but for now it is 5 millimeters. Question 17, what is the standard bed size? So this is the standard flatbed, and it can accommodate material up to 330 by 420 millimeters. So that's pretty big. Question 18, what is the mini bed size? So the mini bed, this is the mini bed, and it goes on there, and I'm not quite sure why this exists. I guess it's because if you wanted to take this to like a trade show, if this is in there, the sides and of the side panels can fold up, and then this can be completely inside. So it's a really compact package, I guess, is why this exists. If you're just running it at home, I don't really see much reason to use this. But I guess if you're taking it somewhere, you might want to. Anyway, this is 330 by 90 millimeters is the biggest thing you can print on this. Question 19, how big of objects can fit in the rotary attachment? So this is a hard question to answer because it depends so much on the shape of the thing. But I think a good rule of thumb is it can be up to 230 millimeters long, and then 80 millimeters in diameter. If it's below those dimensions and it's cylindrical, I'm pretty sure it'll work. That's the best I can do right now until I can test more things. Hopefully, I don't know, there'll be better information later, but that's all I have to work with right now is what it seems like is you can safely fit up to that. Question number 20, what is the resolution? So the standard resolution is 720 by 720 dpi, so dots per inch, which is actually a really good resolution. That's pretty darn detailed. And then you can turn that up to, on the high quality setting, that can go up to 720 by 1440 dpi, so twice as much resolution. And I'm pretty sure that is that way. So what I would, I guess, consider the x-axis. I think that can go higher because the print head is moving like that, and it can just basically just move slower. So yeah, normally 720 by 720, which looks really nice, and then up to 720 by 1440, which I guess looks even nicer. I couldn't actually tell much of a difference between the two, but yeah. Question number 21, can you print onto very small items? Yeah, you can. So the tricky thing so there's no technical reason why you couldn't do that. The tricky thing is getting everything lined up. So with a camera system, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, it's pretty accurate, and you can, if you do the camera calibration, then right after that, like until you turn it back off and on, it should be really accurate, but it's still like, I don't know, 0.5 millimeter in variance to where it shows up on the software in the view and where it prints in real life. And then that can get worse towards the edges, and it can get worse on really tall things. So it's basically that parallax, right? So if your camera's up here, it's pointing down here. If there's a tall thing and it's like here, it's going to think it's here. Hopefully that makes sense, like how you only have one perspective from the camera. So it can be less accurate on the edges. If you're dead center, and especially like something pretty thin dead center, it's going to be like super accurate. But to get back to the question of can you print really small things on very small items, yeah, you can. You might just need to experiment a little bit with getting them lined up properly. So I think the person asking this was asking about like pens and things like that. If I was doing that, I think I would 3D print like a jig, like a fixture to put a bunch of pens on, and then I would experiment with getting them lined up properly. And then once you do that, once you know the right positioning, then you can just print as many as you want and they'll always be in the right place. So yeah, it just might take a little bit of experimentation. Question number 23, can you print with both gloss and matte finishes at the same time? I don't know. I don't think you can. I haven't seen any option to do that in the software. It's an interesting question. And I think it would be pretty cool if you could, but I don't see any way to do that other than doing it as like separate print jobs. So like say you had two squares right next to each other and you wanted one to be matte and one to be glossy, you could just do two separate print jobs, right? And do one with the gloss turned on, one with the gloss turned off, and that would work. But I don't know, I haven't seen any way to do that, them both at the same time in the same print job. So short answer is no. Longer answer is you could maybe make it work. Question number 24, is this affected by tariffs? I don't know. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for that, but the tariffs thing it's confusing. I feel like there keeps being news about, electronics are exempted, but then which ones are and which ones aren't, and no, they aren't, and I don't know. To me, it seems like it's likely that it will be, because this is shipping from China, at least being made in China. Whether mine came from China in the mail, when they're actually selling these in full production, maybe they'll ship them to U.S. warehouses first and then to customers. I don't know, but either way, as a Chinese-made thing, it should have tariffs. But my understanding is that will be built into the price that they give you. So like, if it's not the kind of thing where you're gonna get a bill in the mail after you order it saying here's an extra $1,000 that you have to pay or whatever. I don't think that's the way it works. Maybe somebody that knows more about all the tariff stuff can comment in this below the video, because it's confusing to me. So yeah, sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. Question number 25, how accurate is the camera alignment? So I think that camera is one of the best features of this machine, in my opinion. So the other UV DTO direct-to-object printers and DTF direct-to-film printers on the market, even though all of them are more expensive, they don't have that camera. And I think that camera is what makes this so useful for makers, because if you're printing a ton of things, like with that pen example I gave you, you could take some time and experiment a little bit and get the alignment right. And that's what factories do, right? Or professional print shops. They take the time on setup, and then they can print a ton of stuff really efficiently, and the camera doesn't matter. For this being made for makers that are doing things in low quantities, it matters a lot, because you can't take that time to figure out the right positioning for, every print. You'd be spending way more time figuring that out than actually printing things. So that camera is important, and in my experience, it's actually really accurate. Again, as I mentioned before, you want to do the camera alignment. It does make a difference. I don't know how often you need to do that. I've been doing it every time, basically once a day. If I turn on the machine, or if the machine's been off and I turn it on, I'll do the camera alignment. Or if it's been just sitting here for like a day, I'll do it again. Quick tip, when you do the camera alignment, it tells you to use the sheet that comes on top of this platter. But you don't have to do that. You can just cover it in pieces of paper like that, and then it can print the alignment squares and all of that. Anyway, so if you do the camera alignment, it works really well. I'd say, again, it's more accurate in the middle than on the sides, more accurate for thinner things than thicker things. In the middle with a kind of thinner thing, I think it's within like 0.5 millimeter, which is, you wouldn't even be able to, like that. You wouldn't even be able to see it in my fingers, but it's very, very accurate. I've used similar camera systems a lot on laser cutters and laser engravers, and they kind of always really suck. Even like after calibration and doing it in the middle, it's like they're always still off. This is way better than that. It's like, it made me really happy because I was worried that that would be an issue like it was with the laser cutters, because then, you're printing a Zippo like this one, right? You put it in there. If this is off by, like a quarter of an inch even, it's going to completely ruin your print, and then you're out a Zippo. These aren't cheap, so then you're wasted money on the Zippo and you've wasted time on the print. That could be a big deal. So I'm really happy that it is accurate and I'm able to position things well. If you saw the pennies I showed off in the original video, they're all like pretty concentric on there. Again, within probably like 0.5 millimeter. And yeah, so I'd say it's pretty accurate. Question 26, can you print multiple parts at once? Yeah, you can, and that's the best way to probably make stuff more efficiently. So if you're going to be, I don't know, again, using the Zippo lighter for an example again, if you're going to be making like a ton of these, I would just fill the whole bed with them, and then in the software just line up the graphics and then hit print, and then you can make dozens of them in one go. So yeah, you can definitely print multiple things at one time. Each one could have a different graphic. They don't all have to be the same. I guess the only restrictions are that everything needs to be the same height. So you couldn't like have that on there and then that next to it, because this is so much thicker. The print head's going to be at the height for this, not the height for that. So they need to be at the same height, and then the print settings need to be the same. So you couldn't have this one print like high quality and that one print at the standard quality. So yeah, as long as basically it works for a bunch of identical objects, but they can have different graphics. Question number 27, is the ink opaque or transparent? Yes. It's opaque, but it can look a little transparent when it's thinner. So on this one, I'll try to get a close-up video. I don't know how well it'll show up on camera, but I'll try to get a close-up of this. You can see that it's kind of semi-translucent, I guess, because it's such a thin layer of ink, and there's no white underneath it, so it is kind of showing through. But it can be completely opaque if you do like a flat. So when you're setting it up in the software, you can do it flat, which is what this is, flat with white underneath it, which is what this is. Or you could do flat raised, which basically is the same thing, but just thicker. And then that's distinct from textured, like the oil painting. Anyway, so when you're doing flat like this without white under it, it is sort of translucent, mostly opaque, but sort of translucent. Otherwise, just think of it as opaque. All right, and question number 28, and this is the final question. How durable are the prints? Really durable, actually. In my experience, I haven't had any issues with them like flaking or rubbing off or anything like that. Like, it's really durable. A lot more durable than paint or like vinyl stickers and that sort of thing. Like, this is the one that was washed, didn't come off at all. Like, you could, it's not affecting it at all. With this, you could, scratch at it. It's not coming off. Now, I'm sure you could get it off if you went at it with like a Dremel or a chisel or something. You could get the ink to flake off, but it's definitely durable. I wouldn't, like, you could keep this in your pocket, I don't know, for months, years without seeing any wear on it, which is the case for all like Zippo graphics if you have any experience with those. Even like the professional ones or the official ones you get from Zippo, that's about how durable they are. So yeah, I would say the prints are very durable. The ink holds up really well. It's not coming off of, at least any of the materials I tested, it's not coming off easily, and it should hold up well. And UV light, like sunlight exposure, is also good. If you saw in my original video, I put the phone case outside and had it out there for days in the direct sunlight of Phoenix, and it didn't seem to affect it at all. I asked eufyMake about that too, and they said that it's these prints are very UV resistant. I was personally a little concerned about that because my thought process was that if it's using UV light to cure it, then like a resin 3D printer, maybe it'll get worse with too much exposure, but that doesn't seem to be a problem. So yeah, they're very durable. All right, that's all the questions. Definitely subscribe if you're interested in this kind of stuff. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, thumbs up and all that jazz. I'm planning on making a video with lots of tips and tricks that I've kind of discovered along my testing. I'm hoping to have that video out around the time that you guys start getting these. Those of you that are buying these, by the time you start, getting these in your hands, I'm hoping to have that video out around that time. And I'll also be posting additional videos of just showing things I've made with this, and then just kind of more generally going forward, the content that I make, so much of it's about maker stuff, projects that I do. I'll definitely be using this for a lot of those. So, stay tuned, subscribe, all that stuff if you want to see more about this. All right, thanks for watching.